All right, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a Quest 2 review with the Quest 3 coming right around the corner. We are going to kind of dive into the Quest 2 finally, do a little bit of a review. This isn't a review that's very elaborate, but it's going to be basically my thoughts, my opinions on how I feel the Quest 2 is now, currently, before the Quest 3 comes out, and that's going to kind of give a better understanding of how the Quest 3 compares once the Quest 3 comes out, for me at least. So I have this kind of documented of my thoughts of the Quest 2 before the Quest 3 comes out and before I've tried the Quest 3. And this will kind of give you an idea of whether the Quest 2 is for you, still going into the year 2024. 2023 is wrapping up nicely, so hopefully the Quest 2 will stay relevant for another couple years. We'll see. Hopefully it makes its way through 2024 just fine. I'm sure it will. But with the Quest 3 coming out now, we're going to have a lot more new games, exciting games, hopefully, and more things to add to the VR space. Hopefully the Quest 3 kind of perks things up a bit. That's kind of the goal, the idea, the hope, the dream. So, Quest 2, is it ready for 2024? Let's find out. I bought this Quest 2 for my ex-girlfriend, actually. I bought it brand new back in the day when Oculus, when Meta was acquisitioning Oculus. And is that a word, acquisitioning? So, yeah, when there was that acquisition there, it still says Oculus. I don't know if you could read that. It's a little bit blown out, but I promise you it does say Oculus there, and not Meta. So this is a very special headset. It's actually the 64 gig model. It is very, I don't know, kind of dated now. 64 gigs, it's not much for all the games and apps that are available on this headset. So anyway, so I'm going to be doing that review right now. We're going to be getting into the build, comfort, and everything very soon. If you do want to see more, if you're curious about the Quest 3, go ahead and subscribe down below. And if you like this video, leave a like. It does help out the channel a lot. And if you have any questions about the Quest 2, if there's anything I didn't talk about that you want answered, go watch another fucking I'm just kidding. No, stay here. Don't watch another reviewer. Leave a comment. I will answer. I will be glad to answer that question for you. So yeah, leave it down below. Is this thing on? No, it's not on. The light's turned on. Anyway, is it on? Oh, it is on. Okay, let's power it off. Hold on. Okay, we're turning it off. So anyway, so as far as the Quest 2 goes, this review will be focused on the mobile side of the Quest 2. I'm not going to be going into Again, I'm not going to be going into the technical details of the Quest 2 and how it, how it fully functions and everything. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but just overall kind of summary. So not PCVR. We're not talking about the Quest 2 with PCVR, just as a mobile headset on its own. For PCVR, I would recommend another headset. I would not recommend a Quest. That's just my opinion. Even the Quest 3, it's not out yet, but it has the same kind of connections to PCVR in that sense. And I would still say get a dedicated PCVR headset if you are mainly playing on PC. If 90% of your gaming, or even 80, 70% of your gaming is on PC connected to VR, get a PCVR headset. If you are purely wanting a wireless setup, then, the Quest 2 can be okay. Through virtual desktop or AirLink now, Oculus has. But there's a little bit of compression there. You might get a little bit more latency, things like that. There's always added, cost to these things. So for PCVR, having a wire, people might, I'm trying to use too many words. It might upset some people to have a wire. But for instance, for me, I've always had a wire, so I'm kind of used to it. But I understand people without a wire who've never had a wire. They don't really want a wire hanging on their shoulder or whatever. Maybe they don't have the space for it, whatever. So anyway, mobile review only. If you want PCVR stuff, I'm going to be reviewing my index, and I have down here, actually, I have a DPVR E4 headset. It's just on the ground next to me, which I'm going to be reviewing too. So look out for that if you're interested in the PCVR side of things. So most of us already know what the Quest 2 is all about. I'm not going to go into details, like I said. Quest 2 is focused on mobile gaming, I would say, whereas the Quest 3 is focused on mobile gaming as well. But it's the Quest 3 seems to be more focused on like AR and augmented reality, and making use of those depth sensors on the Quest 3, and their color pass-through obviously was necessary to make that augmented reality immersion feel good, right? Because the Quest 2 doesn't really have a good pass-through, which we'll talk about. So if we finally get into the review, comfort-wise, in the review, as we know, the comfort on the Quest 2 is head strap. For any who have seen reviews, the head strap, for me as well, as well as many other users, the head strap's not the most comfortable. The new Quest 3 has a little fork here at the end on the back, so that's supposed to be more supportive. We'll see again in the review. If you want to see it, subscribe. You'll get a notification when it goes live. And then as far as the head strap, it's cheap. It's just a cloth kind of thing. It has nice Velcro. That's fantastic to keep things in place, but as with any head strap, it will probably have Velcro. So yeah, the head strap is probably the weakest point of the Quest 2. I think it's a lot to be desired, but it's for the cheap. So it's made cheap because it's cheap and affordable. So they have to cut the cost somewhere. There is an Elite head strap that you can buy, but I hear these are prone to cracking. I've definitely seen my share of posts of people having cracked Elite plastics. So I would recommend, if you're going to replace this head strap, they can be removed and replaced. I would definitely go with something third party. I'm sure there's plenty out there that are great, but yeah, I know a few people who have a Quest 2 and who have a third party head strap, and they're very happy with it. So the Elite strap, again, prone to breaking. Maybe it'll be good for you, but I've heard it was pretty poor. The weight with the default head strap is an issue, if we're still on that. When you put the headset on, I'm not going to now because I have headphones on, I realize. The front end is a bit heavy, right? So it does stick out a little bit. It is a pretty decently thick boy compared to the Quest 3. It's a bit slimmer, and especially with headsets like the big screen beyond that's coming out, really tiny headset. So this thing, it does kind of protrude out from your face, which means the weight is further forward from your face. And when the weight is further out from you, the weight feels heavier, right? Even though it might weigh the same thing. If you have a rod with a 2-pound weight at the end of it, and the longer that rod is, the more weight it's gonna feel, right? So the closer that's why they say when you lift something up, a heavy box or something, don't hold it out in front of you with your arms extended. Bring it to your chest, have it touch your chest, bring something close to you so that the weight is more at your center of gravity, I should say, and you should be able to balance and carry it better. So the same thing applies when you put something on your face. That's why the big screen beyond, with it being so close to your face, and like it's so light and small anyway, but that's why that's going to be really good. But with the Quest 2, there's a little bit of inertia there because it's a little bit further from your face. All things considered, it's fine. Every VR headset, pretty much, modern VR headset is still like this. They're still pretty big, so you're going to have that. But yeah, the weight does come down with this strap. So if you get another strap, the weight will be obviously better distributed. And if you have a battery pack on the back of the strap, that kind of helps counterbalance it. So the weight's not all at the front. So I would definitely get or invest in a new head strap if you can for the Quest 2. If you have one now, or if you decide to get one, even if you decide to get the Quest 3, I would recommend in some type of like counterbalance setup. I have a counterbalance on my Valve Index, and I couldn't recommend it enough. It helped a lot. It helps a lot with just the weight of the headset and how it feels on your face. So the Quest 3, like I said, the Quest 3 allegedly fixed that with the strap like this, with the little fork So we'll see. Once I get that, we'll see how that goes. As far as IPD goes, there's 3 adjustments, and with the Quest 2, you just I don't know if you could see that, but you just move them in and out. It has 3 different positions. They're just little notches. You move from one to the other. As far as IPD numbers, I'll put that on the screen here somewhere, what each one is, 1, 2, and 3. I'm not sure off the top of my head, to be honest. Now, the facial gasket, it does come with a kind of foam gasket, but this one I have a silicone cover on top of it because they were sending those out to people who had maybe some irritation on their face, on their skin from that foam that they were originally shipping with. So the silicone gasket is very helpful. It's very easy to clean. You could just wipe it off, and it's much more hygienic. So yeah, that's as far as comfort goes with the Oculus. If we talk about build quality, obviously it's all plastic. I think the cloth material is really nice on the sides, but what I see ends up happening with this cloth material is it starts to get dirty, right? People use it, and you can't really clean the cloth on the side here that easily. So it starts to fray, and it starts to get dirty. Maybe darker black, brown start to appear on it. It's kind of like a white gray color now. So yeah, they use these materials obviously for to be cost effective and to sell this product at a cheaper price to be more affordable for everyone. Apple needs to consider that, please. And yeah, so build quality I would say is good. It's really good. It's really well constructed, honestly. It feels solid. It doesn't feel like, the plastics are going to start, coming off or anything, or the creaking or anything. Like, it's very sturdy. Everything's there, and it actually feels really nice. It's manufactured very well, I will say that. So I've had no problems with its durability since I've had it. So I'm sure it'll last a lifetime if you want it to. As far as the lenses go, I'm just going to hold it in my hand. I keep picking it back up when I go to new topics. So as far as the lenses they're using Fresnel lenses, and you'll know as soon as you look in the lenses, you'll know that they're Fresnel lenses because you start seeing those little kind of lines, the rings, if you will, which is just the lenses kind of stacked on top of each other, however it works. So yeah, no pancake lenses there. The Quest 3 has pancake lenses, which will be very exciting for me because I've never looked into pancake lenses through VR. So I'm excited to see what those look like as far as image clarity and whatnot. So on the lenses, you do see it's a little bit blurry on the edges of the lenses, which is pretty standard, pretty typical in VR. Pancake lenses look to alleviate most of this issue, so that there's more image clarity across the whole display, and you have a larger sweet spot so you can move around the lens on your eye more in different positions and things are still clear. With these lenses, they have a pretty small sweet spot, and to be fair, there's not much of a field of view, so you're pretty much in that sweet spot all the time if you want the image to look decent, right? God rays are no worse than the Valve Index that I have. They're not great. It's just a thing with Fresnel lenses, I suppose. You kind of see, like, I don't know how to explain it, God rays. It's an interesting thing, but if you're looking at, let's say, white text on a black background, if you're playing Beat Saber, for instance, something similar like that, where there's text on a black background, sometimes the text you'll see, it ghosts outwards, like a God ray. So you kind of see that in the lenses as the light bounces around in there. And this is something that's, like I said, it's very typical. Pretty much every VR headset will have something similar. Some do very well to alleviate that issue. But yeah, God rays are very much a thing in the Quest 2. We'll see how they are in the Quest 3. But yeah, the face gasket, because it's not molded to your face, sometimes the light will come through on the sides. Let me power this off again. Sometimes the light will kind of come through on the sides. And when that happens, when the light enters on the sides, it'll hit the lens and it'll bounce around, and it might create some glare. This isn't God ray from the lenses themselves. It's just the backlight glare hitting the lenses. So this will happen if you're in a very bright room, and again, if the side has a little bit of a gap there. So yeah, that's going to be a thing if you're in a really bright room and if your face is very small, I guess. But this is the nature of VR. You know, you could get a different gasket. You could try different face gaskets, see if they help. The default one is very stiff and rigid, and you know, it's only molded into one shape. So if it doesn't fit your face, then try something else. I know VR Cover. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I know VR Cover. I have a VR Cover facial gasket for my index. They're very, very soft, very good, very comfortable. I highly recommend them if you do decide to get a new face gasket. So if we talk about the displays themselves on the Quest 2, we're running 3664 by 1920, a single panel LCD display. I'm not going to go into the technical bits, and I hope I don't get any of this wrong. So 1832 by 1920 per eye, roughly. It's a single panel display again, so you're probably not getting all those pixels to the eye. But if you were to split that panel in half, that's what you would be getting per eye, 1832 by 1920 per eye. But yeah, I think this is just, if I'm correct, it's just a single panel in front, and then the lenses are obviously picking up, you know, each side of that display. Whereas some other VR headsets, a lot of them, have individual panels that are separated from each other. So then the lenses have better capabilities of focusing on just that panel. Just the left eye can focus on just that panel, just the right eye can focus on just this panel, so they could better calibrate it and pick up, you know, have more pixel density because they're picking up more pixels with that single display separated. So that's a little bit of a drawback with the Quest 2 from what I've heard, but again, technical bits. As far as FOV, we already kind of touched on that. It's pretty mediocre. It's a pretty binocular vision with the Quest 2. I've read that some people update their face mask or face gasket. They get a new gasket, which is slimmer, you know, maybe closer to the lenses, and it brings their eyes forward a bit more, and that allows them to get a little bit more field of view. But my experience going from the index, which has a very good field of view, I measured that, and I'm getting, in the software, I'm getting 109 width, and then like the vertical, I'm getting like 105 degrees or something. So I'm getting a decent amount, and then like diagonally, I'm getting like 111 or something. But this one, I haven't tested it, but I would say it's probably pretty accurate with a like around mid 90s, 95, 96 field of view. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like you're looking through binoculars kind of. So I desire more field of view. That's why I don't really use the Quest 2 too much. But if you're just playing Beat Saber, or you're just hanging out with friends in VR chat or whatever, you probably don't need much field of view. And even for things like sim racing and stuff like that, field of view isn't huge. It's definitely beneficial, but you use things like audio and stuff to pick up things left and right of you, whereas field of view sometimes isn't that big of a deal. If you're playing competitive first-person shooters, you probably want to see around the corners, so field of view is probably going to be a bigger issue for you. And if you're used to wider field of view, then that's going to be an issue to you. But if you've never done VR before, then this doesn't matter. Field of view doesn't really matter, because you're not going to know what's better. I don't know how to explain that, if that makes sense. So anyway, field of view is fine, but is there more to be desired? Yes, there is more to be desired. But if this is your first headset, you're buying it used, enjoy it. It's a great first headset. This thing does have, speaking of the display still, it does have a higher resolution than my current Valve Index. But like I said, resolution isn't everything. Everything else kind of matters as well going into it. Comfort is a huge factor, the lenses you're looking through, and then the displays themselves, whether they're single panel or individual panels separated, all plays a role in clarity and everything that you're looking at in the display of a VR headset. So while this has higher resolution than the Valve Index, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting a clearer image. I feel that the pixel density is a little bit higher in this. You're not getting as much of a screen door effect, which is the effect that you're getting in the Valve Index at least, and there still is a screen door effect here in the Quest 2, but it's less so, where you're seeing the basically between the pixels, the darkness between the pixels. That's the screen door effect. So you get that, basically it's a screen door effect. It is what it is. It looks like what it's called. So the Quest 2 isn't bad with the screen door effect. Not as bad as the Index, but the Index, for some reason, it looks more clear to me. And I think that's just because it's running on PCVR and it's not a mobile headset. So that might be something. It could have to do with the lenses themselves or the displays themselves as well. Plenty of brightness going through these things. You're not going to have a problem there. The screens are way, way bright. You're not going to have any issues. It does run 3 different modes for as far as frequency response, if you would call that the frequency response, or hertz, 72 hertz, 90 hertz, and 120 hertz. Obviously, games that support 120 hertz, that's great. Otherwise, 90 hertz is probably going to be your default, and then 72 hertz. I don't even know what apps are still running 72 hertz, but I don't know, maybe VR chat if you have to jump in there and the performance is poor because there's too many people. Who knows? I don't use VR chat much. And actually, I haven't used it really ever. I've used it several years ago when I first got into VR, and not my thing. As far as pass-through goes, it has black and white pass-through. The pass-through, this isn't for pass-through. The pass-through is basically for setting up the Guardian or play space, your room boundaries, setting up your play space. And that's pretty much it. You have pass-through if you exit the play space, or if something, I think, enters your play space, if a person comes in, or an animal maybe, it will show you your surroundings, but it's very fuzzy, it's very blurry, it's not really good pass-through. So the Quest 3, which I'm excited for, and a lot of people are excited for, obviously, the Quest 3's one of their biggest things is they have color pass-through now, and it looks like the pass-through is really good. So I'm excited about that because you're going to be able to look through, you're going to be able to wear the headset and still see the world around you. And that's what pass-through is. So with the Quest 2, it's black and white. You're looking at really grainy, fuzzy, blurry cameras, basically. So the world around you, the real world around you when you're wearing the headset doesn't look good. So the Quest 3, anyway, that's exciting. We'll get into that once I do the Quest 3 review, and I'll let you know all the nitty-gritty details about that. But yeah, I'm sure other people already have Quest 3s now, so there's plenty of videos for that. As far as battery goes, as we move on, the Quest 2 supports a 2-hour battery on its own, 2 to 3 hours with games. But the Elite Strap, it can have a battery attached to it, an extra battery on the back. So like I said, it works as a counterbalance, that battery, so you could have it on the back of your head and then the front is still heavy as it is. So the Quest Elite Strap apparently brings the headset from 2 to 3 hours life to 5 to 7 hours on battery with that Elite Strap and the battery. So 5 to 7 hours is not so bad. 2 to 3 hours battery life on its own. Again, why I don't use mobile VR headsets, because having to constantly, cater to that battery is, I don't know how I feel about that. So, but I'm not a mobile VR person. So if I had a Elite Strap with a battery, 5 to 7 hours is actually pretty good. So hopefully the Quest 3 keeps up with that and continues that trend. And hopefully the Quest 3 actually improves the battery life on its own, because 2 to 3 hours is not much. You almost need an Elite Strap or a second battery to really get potential out of this thing, especially if you're a fucking gamer. Like you're going to be in games for longer than 2 hours. Like, what gamer is in a game, especially a young kid playing, even in your teens, whatever, you're going to play games for longer than 2 hours. So, yeah, a backup battery, you could even plug in a portable battery straight into the USB-C port here. It'll charge it. As long as you have an extra battery, I think this thing will be fine. But on its own, its battery life is to be desired. Audio's terrible. The audio, there's little tiny holes, slots on either side of the headset here, kind of close to your ears, which is where the audio comes out of. As you can see, that space is very small. So fit a speaker in there. Are you going to fit a good speaker in there? Probably not. So the bass is lacking. and it's basically nothing but high treble and piercing sounds, and that's it. And you have no bass, no mids, and yeah, plug in some headphones. Luckily, this thing does have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack right next to the charging port here, the USB-C port. So I would highly recommend getting a good pair of headphones, IEMs, whatever you are comfortable with, and using those instead, because you're going to get a much more immersive audio experience than what comes with the Quest 2. So that's definitely a drawback. As far as controllers go, I have the controllers here actually. The haptic feedback is fantastic. I think the controllers are incredibly comfortable in the hand. The buttons are very nicely laid out. I like the joystick. It's small. I think the joystick can be a little bit bigger. It is very small, but everything feels nice. It's laid out perfectly, and the triggers and the little grip button on the side is very well designed. It has a nice damper on it, so when you're pressing it, it's not making a clacking sound as it clacks against plastic. So it has a nice damper to it to reduce that noise, and it feels good. The haptic feedback feels great. I think the haptic feedback in the Quest 2 controllers actually feel better than the Valve Index controllers that I have currently, because my current Valve Index controllers, they're just, I don't know if I had to replace them because my other ones, the triggers started going out. So I had them both replaced a while ago, years ago. And the new ones that they gave me, the motor is just louder. I don't know, it's just a louder motor. So I hear the force feedback or the haptic feedback in my controller with the Valve Index. But the Quest 2 is really great. So no problems there. The battery compartment, I will say, on the Quest 2 controllers, it's a little awkward to open and close just because there's nothing to really guide you or help you. So like, I don't know. I'm just picky or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really like the way the battery compartment's designed. It's just a personal thing. Not a fan. But yeah, batteries can be obviously easily swapped out. You don't need to charge the controller or anything, because it just takes a single AA battery, which is pretty nice actually. The battery life is so long on these two. You could use your Quest 2 for a month. It depends on how long you use it, obviously, but you could probably use it for a month without the batteries dying, which is great. Whereas the Valve Index, I could use it for maybe less than a week, and then I need to start charging the batteries. So yeah, it's very different there. The battery life is great on the Quest 2. But yeah, they're super comfortable. I will say the controllers, the Halo, this little Halo ring here, it's a little bit awkward when you, especially in games, first-person shooters, where you're bringing the controllers next to each other. You know, you're trying to like hold a pistol and you're trying to like grip it, and they just, you know, they clash together, whatever. So the Quest 3 looks really good. The controllers look great on those. They don't have the halos anymore. So you should be able to get those controllers nicely tight next to each other when you're playing first-person shooter games like that. So that's really nice to see. As far as software, I mentioned earlier briefly that we're not going to go too in-depth with software because it's constantly changing. The software, they're always updating things. They're always doing new things. They're adding in new hertz and stuff. You know, the Quest 2 didn't launch with 120 hertz. That was something that was added later on, and it looks like the Quest 3 is going to be no different. The Quest 3 is not going to launch with 120 hertz support. So that's something you'll get later on with a software update. So software is really good for the Quest. Meta, Facebook, all that, whatever. You know what you're getting into.
Our company is now Meta.
The applications, the software itself on the headset, the UI design, everything, it's really, really good. Nothing to complain about there. I mean, obviously you could complain about anything, but I think for what it is, it's really good. They've been, you know, they're on whatever, their upteenth iteration, and things are looking pretty good software-wise, and it's always improving. So nothing much to say about the software. As far as tracking, this will be one of the last things I kind of talk about before I go into my own thing. But tracking is really good. I'm honestly impressed with the Quest 2's tracking. The one complaint that I have is that you need to have the lights on. If you are playing in a dark room, you won't have tracking. And that's because it is camera-based tracking. So if the cameras don't have enough light, then you're not going to have enough light to track properly, and it's not going to be able to find things, I guess. So yeah, you have to play in a room with the lights on. Now, I've used another headset, the DPVR E4, which also has camera-based tracking, similar to the Quest 2, but that's a PCVR headset. It's kind of like the G2 in that sense. The Quest 2's tracking is better. I'll just say that. Is this turning on again? Okay, we need to turn this off again. Okay, Jesus Christ. I need to stop picking it up. It's like sensing it and turning it on. So if we go into the issues that I found, these are just things that I maybe don't like or whatever. This is obviously very personal. This whole review is very personal and subjective. So the face gasket, it might not fully seal. We have already talked about that. It creates more glare, and the biggest issue here is if you do have light leakage with the face gasket and you can't remedy it, you're kind of screwed, because the only way to remedy that light leakage is by eliminating the light from getting in there, right? So it's either sealing off your face more, get a new gasket, or turn off the lights. Well, you can't turn off the lights because you need lights to track to use the headset. So it's kind of like it's kind of a thing. So if the face gasket fits perfectly, then you're not going to have that glare. It's honestly not that big of an issue. I'm just making it more of an issue than it needs to be, because it's something that I found that kind of bothers me. For most people, it's probably not going to be an issue. When other people use this headset, they don't, like, it fits their face better. My face is just a little bit more narrow than most. So again, tracking requires lights to be turned on and moderately bright. It can't be super dim. If it is, you may have tracking issues. Keep that in mind if you plan on getting a Quest 2 or any camera tracking device, basically, because you do need some decent light in there. And then the other thing that I don't necessarily enjoy about the Quest 2 is that the field of view is just too narrow for my taste. And the audio, I wish there was better audio solution, but you could remedy that just fine. You can't really, unfortunately, remedy the field of view issue. So I wish these headsets started focusing a little bit more on field of view, but I think that'll come a little bit later in headset development. So as far as things I liked, I really like the mobile aspect of the Quest 2. I think that's brilliant. I think that obviously is the right direction to bring people to VR. Not everyone has a computer. Not everyone has the space for, base station tracking. So this having, camera tracking support is great too. Just the overall philosophy and design of the Quest 2, I really enjoy. The only thing that you're trading off with that mobile design is battery. So you're going to have a battery to worry about now. And right now the battery sucks. The battery life is not good. So I would like to see a 5-6 hour battery default on its own without adding a battery to it. Give me 5 or 6 hours, like a laptop, like a gaming laptop. Give me a few hours. But again, like, you need to make it small, you need to make it light. And if you're adding a big battery, that makes it not small, that makes it not light. So I get it. And I understand, again, also why Apple is going with like an external battery pack, like one that's kind of, you put in your pocket, this battery, and then the headset goes on your face, to bring that weight from the headset to somewhere else. So yeah, battery management is going to be very strange moving forward with mobile VR headsets. I think that's going to be the hardest thing for people going the mobile route is batteries and weight. If you want a good PCVR headset, again, get a dedicated PCVR headset. This isn't for you if you're using PCVR most of the time. If you still want a Quest 2, they're great. Yeah, do it. But can you get something that will not only run better, perform better, and not have a battery to worry about and things like this? Yes. Is that my headset making these noises? What's making these noises? Okay, anyway. We're going to continue. We're going to wrap it up. I heard something. I don't know what it was. So the Quest 3 isn't released yet, again, but that's going to be coming out soon. And we're definitely going to be reviewing that when it does come out. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe for that. The Quest 2, again, for now is brilliant. So in closing, is the Quest 2 going to be worth it in 2024? I would say for the current price at the time of this review, which is $299 US, yes, I do think it's still worth it. It's a very reasonable price. They recently dropped the price a bit, and it gets you into VR, and I think that's the main thing. The Quest 2 will still play games in VR in 2024, and I think that's the most important thing, because it will get people into VR at a cheaper cost, and that's the biggest thing, because the more people that are in VR, the more people are going to be developing for VR, and the more games we're going to get, the more out of VR we're going to get, as people start to adapt to VR, and adopt VR. So I'm curious what you think. Is the Quest 2 still worth it for you in 2024? Are you getting the Quest 3? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious what you have to say about it. And by the time you watch this video, the Quest 3 might be out, or it might be on its way, and well, it is on its way. Or right around the corner, I should have said. So whether the Quest 3 is worth it will be answered in a later review video for the Quest 3 that I end up doing, so make sure to check that one out as well. Every link that you need is going to be in the description down below. Thanks for watching this review. I know it's been quite a long one. We're running at almost 40 minutes now, but we talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. And again, this is a new format, so there's going to be like no cuts or anything.